discussing whatever we're discussing, refuge, isn't it? I think. Yes. Continuing. Tara, thank you so much.
Yes, Venerable. Mandala.
Wonderful. Who's that offering the kata? Who's that?
Yes.
I can't see it.
That's Andrea.
Hello, Andrea. Hello. Thank you. Wonderful. So we think here's the Buddha behind me, and I'm saying the words of Buddha, hopefully. And so we're going to offer a mandala, all the contents of the universe, as a request for the teachings. Okay. Say it in English. English, last. Lars, are you there?
Yes, I'm here now. Sorry.
In English.
Yes. This ground, anointed with perfume, strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, the 4 continents, the sun and the moon. I imagine this as a Buddha land and offer it. May all transmigratory beings enjoy this pure land. Perfect, pure, holy gurus from the billowing crowds of wisdom and compassion in the sky of the Dharmakaya, please let fall a rain of profound and extensive Dharma upon the receptacle of those to be subdued exactly as they need.
Hidam Guru Ratna Mandala Kamni Yatayami, and also offering representations of the enlightened body, speech, and mind, which is very auspicious. It's frozen. Can you people hear me?
We can hear you, but your image is froze. Yeah. Or now we can't hear you, I think.
You can't hear me.
There you are. Yes, you're back.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know what happened. Sometimes it happens with my computer. I might have to go onto my iPad. You can still hear me okay? Is it clear enough or not? Or is it coming and going?
Oh, we can hear you. Nice.
Okay, good. Thank goodness. Okay, good. Okay. All right then, people. So, okay. What's going on? All right. We can finish the prayers then. Okay. So again, okay. So just to summarize what we've been talking about. The framework, the bigger picture from this topic we're discussing, this one of relying upon the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. So in the context of the whole path and the way it's presented in the Lam Rim, is that you first think about the preciousness of this human life. You then realize the action point is I don't want to waste it. So you enter into the path, and the very first thing you think about, the Natisha and Tsongkhapa, get us to increase our wish not to waste this precious life by thinking about impermanence, in particular death. Then you think that in order again to increase and then to continue to increase our wish not to waste this precious life, because we realize it could end at any moment. Then we think about the likelihood of types of suffering in future lives, the suffering lives, which we do not want, that increases our wish not to waste this precious life. So then we think, well, whom can I turn to give me methods that I can use to prevent that future suffering in order not to waste this precious human life. So that's where we are here. That's where we are here. What is so then I'm a bit confused about the modules. What number module is this? This is 7 or something, 6. It's refuge we're talking about, right?
Yeah, refuge. Yeah, it's the 3 jewels, refuge and 3 jewels. And yes, you did relying on the Buddha.
So therefore, what I'm getting at is this is, even though we've already talked about the mind, which is really kind of middle scope, high school, we've talked about karma. Have we done karma already? The module? Have we done karma already? What module is that?
That was 6, was it? Right now we're on 7.
I didn't ask you that. What module was karma?
6.
Don't speculate.
Then I'll don't.
Thank you. Give us the facts. So we've talked about meditation, because that's exciting in the modern world. We think that's something very special. Meditation, we discussed that. And when did we discuss karma? What module was that? Tara?
Karma was the previous module.
The previous module. So it's kind of curious, because really refuge should. I don't know why refuge comes after karma, because refuge should come for karma, because when you realize you don't want future suffering, you then think, well, whom can I turn to give me the methods? And then you apply the methods, which is karma. So Lord knows why it's back to front. So we then discussed, so when we, so then you rely upon, it's a bit like karma is the medicine and the doctor is refuge. So that really should have come before karma. Lord knows why we put it in before. I do not understand that, but never mind. So yeah, so what we're trying to do really here is understand this concept of what the Buddha is and what his Dharma is, these so-called three jewels. And I mean, we've done it in a way, we've completed it to the best of my ability. There's so much more we could say. That's why it's necessary that you study these course notes. So perhaps I'm wondering then, based on what we've discussed the last weeks, are there any questions? Having done your discussions, having done your contemplations of it, having done the study of the course notes, are there any questions, please? Are there any questions in the chat? Maybe this is a boring topic for people, because I can see there's less people here today than normal. So maybe it's kind of boring to think about the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. Don't ask me. I don't know. Are there any questions?
Not in the chat box.
Any questions there? Last, what do you think? Anybody got any questions at all? Nothing. Well, then I've just got to have to talk, I suppose. Has Carol got a question?
Yes, please.
Carol, yes, good, Carol. Talk to me.
Thank you, Venerable. Yeah, the power of speech, Buddha's being expertise is, and your Buddha, so your speech is very, very powerful. And I've noticed that about teachers, but I've also noticed that there's this kind of energy that comes from a group of students, even online. I can't be with students in person, but even online, even when they're talking, there's this it's this vibration, not a vibrate, I don't know what it is, but it's something very, very special about when ordinary people talk. Am I imagining that?
Well, I think it's interesting. I think it is interesting about speech. It is interesting. And even we're talking here, I think it is interesting. Yes, I agree in a way. So, I mean, I think we've discussed this before. When you can walk into a room and people in the room have been fighting, but you walk in and it's completely silent. We say you can cut the energy with a knife. Now that's really fascinating, isn't it? Mm. They're not speaking a word. And even before you see their faces, as we say, you can feel the energy. So then I think equally, it's exactly the same. I find that about Zoom as well. I mean, even though we're in different parts of the world, we're on a computer screen, for God's sake. I mean, it really does show the power of mind. I mean, it has to. It just has to. Sometimes you can go, you can, as you're saying, I think, Carol, if we're slightly aware and if we're slightly sensitive, I think you're absolutely right. If a whole bunch of people, even remotely, are all on there and we see each other's faces and we're all talking about something like this, then I think it's not impossible that we can feel something pure. I mean, if we were all discussing how to kill somebody, I think you'd feel the heavy energy there as well. So I really think it's not wrong what you're saying. And maybe what it does is really more than speech, it shows the power of mind.
Mind.
More than the mere physical, I mean, this is where we can really see it's more than the mere physical. So that's why, of course, as Lama Yeshe talks about in Mahamudra, one of the consequences, one of the benefits, one of the results of having accomplished single-pointed concentration, or shamatha, this calm abiding, this ingenious technique that these Indians invented thousands of years ago, which of course are central in Buddhism. Once you've accomplished this, as Lama says, you can accomplish, and that's described in great detail in the texts, you accomplish clairvoyance, as they call it. So there's the ordinary level of it. And I think even that is what we're discussing here. Even just the ordinary level of it, as Lama says, is ordinary feeling of kind of intuition, that you just got a strong feeling, even that your friend, as he says, your friend somewhere else is having problems. We all have a little bit of access to that ability. And as we increase our own spiritual spiritual practice, which means as we lessen ego and the delusions, we kind of free up our mind, and we literally then can develop actual clear seeing, actually see the minds of others, actually see people in long distances. We see the past, we see the future. That all of that is pointing to the power of this non-physical energy that the Buddha would refer to as our mind or our consciousness, that we're not just talking about a brain, we're talking about something subtler. So we shouldn't mystify that. You know, that really is what the mind is, the Buddha says. And right now we're living at a very gross level of our mind, mainly the sensory level. This is why we can see and hear each other. But the subtler level is the mental consciousness. And that's, as we progress, that's what develops this power. And I think here we all are talking about positive things, or in a room together talking about positive things. We can literally feel it. And that's kind of the first levels of this intuition that we're talking about, which is the first level of beginning to develop really powerful clairvoyance. And frankly, the Buddha says we can't really begin to benefit sentient beings until we've got these really powerful levels of clairvoyance, because then you can see the karma of others. You can be very precise in your ability to know exactly how to help them. So yes, I think you're absolutely right, basically. Carol?
Please, one more thing. Thank you. Thank you so very much. Does that mean that there is a collective merit, also a collective merit that is being generated by?
Well, I wouldn't say those words exactly. I sort of know what you're meaning, but those words aren't so accurate, because technically merit is just a word for accumulating virtuous karmic imprints in our mind. So you could argue all you're saying is, as a result of each of us collectively and individually having positive thoughts, doing positive actions, developing virtuous karma, then as a result of that merit, we can have this sensitivity in our minds to each other and be aware of what's going on. That's probably the way to say it. Do you understand?
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. So back to the speech, though, because I think that's a good one to talk about. I always talk about that one. This, I think, altogether is, and this is the, this is where we understand the Buddha, understand what a Buddha is. Back to this, the word Buddha, as we continually are saying, is the word used to refer to the fully developed mind or consciousness. The Mahayana Buddhist view would say that every sentient being. So let's look a bit at this business with how we all possess this Buddha nature. We'll discuss that a bit more. So that's how they say the Mahayana Buddhist view would say that all sentient beings, all mind possessors. I love the Tibetan word sem chen, mind possessor. There are trillions, as we know, trillions upon trillions of mind possessors, sentient beings, as we say in English, but I think I prefer mind possessors. Humans are a tiny percentage of them. From the Buddhist perspective, the Mahayana Buddhist view, all these beings just naturally possess the potential to become a Buddha, to become an enlightened person, to become omniscient. All these different words, they're not exactly synonyms, but a Buddha's mind is a mind that is not physical. All minds are not physical. This is a fundamental starting point for the Buddha. We have to take that as a hypothesis. We can't prove it immediately. It's not clear. It's not. His Holiness says we can talk in depth about the mind and its qualities, but to actually directly even cognize and experience your own mind at a subtler level is quite a subtle thing. So all we can do is describe the mind in theory, not physical, and has this marvelous potential. And of course, the job of accomplishing that potential is the job of being a Buddhist, basically, lessening the delusions and the neuroses and growing the goodness, growing the virtue, until eventually you've rid the mind of all the delusions and you've perfected the virtue. So now your mind would be a Buddha's mind. And the Buddha is telling us that every mind just naturally has this potential. Everybody possesses Buddha nature. We don't talk like that in our culture. So it sounds a bit kind of esoteric to us, but it's not that complicated. So what Buddha's telling us, what he's meaning. So I always use the analogy of an acorn. It's a good example. They often talk in the teachings about we all possess the Buddhist, it's kind of the seed for enlightenment. It's how they use the word. So if you think of an acorn, if you look at it on face value, what it is this little, I don't know what the name of the shape is. I remember one mathematician told me the name of that shape. I don't remember, but let's just pretend it's oval. I know it's not oval, but it's sort of like oval, whatever it is, I don't know. Perhaps, you know, we see an acorn. Even by looking at it, you first have to learn what it is. You have to learn from some gardener, a botanist who will tell you, a horticulturist, oh, that's an acorn. So you'll say, well, what's an acorn? And they will tell you it's a seed. And what you have to do is you put it in the ground, and then you give it some water and time and a bit of nourishment, and you know, and then it'll gradually turn into an oak tree, and they will point over there to an oak tree. Now, first of all, you can see clearly there's nothing evident in that little thing that shows you it's got the potential to be an oak tree. That's something completely mysterious, but we can prove it pretty quickly, you know. So we could argue then, using the terminology that the Buddhists use, you could say that what an acorn is, by definition, is a potential oak tree. Now, you could, you know, squirrels use it for breakfast. You could use it as jewelry. You could use it as a weapon, nothing wrong, but that's not, this is the key point now. That's not what it actually is. What it is in its bones, what defines its very existence, is its potential to be an oak tree. So that's the way we can talk about a mind. What Buddha has found, you know, we always ask the question, who am I? What is the purpose of life? Why am I here? We ask these questions, you know, and Buddha's findings, Buddha's own direct experiential findings, is that every mind possesses this potential. He has done the job himself. He says, this is my methodology. If you follow these methods, you too will achieve the same result. So that's what we're trying to do if we assume we're Buddhist, you know. So clearly then that's what we're doing in this particular module, is discovering, well, what is a Buddha? What is a Buddha, you know? What is a Buddha? A Buddha is a person whose mind is fully developed, it's not physical, whose mind is fully rid of all the delusions, fully developed in all the virtue and all the goodness. And so now what is that mind like? Well, you know, that mind, and this is a potential every mind has, when that mind is fully developed, first of all, it's being not physical, then, you know, this always sounds pretty cosmic to us, but you can say that it pervades wherever there is existence, because if something is not physical, then how can it be finally in its nature? How can it be confined by space, time, matter? It can't. So, but right now it's interesting. Right now, our mind is confined, very, very, very limited in its capacity for cognition. The job of a mind is to cognize. Cognize what? Well, for the Buddha, cognize that which exists. So when a mind is fully developed, it is in sync with that which exists. And that quality of an enlightened mind is called omniscience. You know, this fancy Greek word, knowing everything, which sounds pretty shocking to us. That's the first quality of the mind. And so because the mind, finally it's fully developed, like right now, our mind is stuck in this body, isn't it? It's totally confined by the body. And we're living at the very gross level of our consciousness. You know, the subtler mind, we're like fast asleep, you know. We function at the very grossest level, which is the conceptual, that depends upon the existence of this body with its 5 pieces in the 5 sense organs. And then we have the mental consciousness, which is necessarily more subtle, but which too is quite limited. We live at the level of conceptuality, which is a very gross level of cognition. It's all we really know, you know. So then we're trying to we're trying to loosen up that, we're trying to expand that mind of ours, lessening the delusions, growing the virtues, growing the wisdom, until eventually it's fully developed. So now it's the omniscient mind of a Buddha. So that mind now is not confined by space or time or matter. So it's just as they say in the Christians, God is everywhere. I always say when I was a little girl, I love God. I love the idea of God being everywhere. So here, exactly the same, this omniscient mind. And the term, you know, as we've discussed in these teachings already, the word for the absolute Buddha, as we've described, is the term for the mind itself. The word Buddha actually finally refers to the enlightened mind. They call it in Sanskrit Dharma Kaya. technically here translated as truth body, which is pretty abstract for us. That's referring to the actual mind when it's fully developed in wisdom and fully developed in compassion. And it doesn't need a gross body. There's no longer needs for bodies. So that consciousness pervades wherever there is existence. It can't not. Nothing can limit it. Nothing can kind of limit it, put it that way, confine it. It's just words, you know. So that omniscient mind, that mind of wisdom that is in sync with reality, because all the delusions, the misconceptions have been removed from that mind. That's what Buddha has found. There's this radical finding of the Buddhas that all misconceptions, all delusions, all neuroses, all mental afflictions are not intrinsic, are not at the core of our being, don't define us, therefore can be removed. So this enlightened mind pervades the universe. It sees that which exists. There's no longer, it's in sync with the reality of existence, how things exist in relation to impermanence, karma, compassion, emptiness, all of these things that Buddha would articulate as being the way things exist, both conventionally and ultimately. So this mind also, because delusions have all gone, so what's also gone is all the sense of a separate self. Now, this in modern psychology, in neuroscientific views of the world, sounds very, very weird, very bizarre. It's incomprehensible to think that even our cognizing ourselves as a separate being from others, that even too is a delusion. That's very peculiar. I mean, what we define as a person in our culture is a separate person with some love, some anger, some jealousy, some depression. That is our definition of a normal person. Buddhism is far more radical a view, you know. So this person, an omniscient mind, that mind is no longer limited by space or time or matter. It pervades wherever there is existence. It knows that which exists without mistake. That means specifically also, as cosmic as it sounds, knows perfectly the minds of all beings, all past, present, and future. They are all knowable phenomena. They are knowable phenomena for the Buddha. So a Buddha's mind can cognize that, therefore is fully equipped with the wisdom to know how to benefit sentient beings. They've got the infinite compassion to want to benefit sentient beings, and there's no longer a separate sense of self. It's as if that mind is oneness with every other mind. There's a sense of vast empathy with all beings, identity with all beings, having the wisdom that knows their minds perfectly. And then the third quality, there's wisdom, compassion, and then there is what they call the power to do effortlessly whatever needs to be done to benefit every one of those minds, including the effortless ability to manifest that mind in countless forms throughout countless universes for countless eons, as long as there are sentient beings suffering. That's a Buddha. Okay, now that really definitely sounds like science fiction. There is no doubt. But that's the Buddhist Mahayana view. And that is a Buddha, that's the Buddhist view. But, you know, the Mahayana view is that every one of us can possess that we all possess Buddha nature, that what defines our existence, who we actually are in our bones, is a Buddha. We're not a Buddha yet. Actually, that's interesting. In some traditions, they talk about how we are already a Buddha. We just have to discover it. And that can be, I think, you know, you could argue with that technically. Like, it's like saying an acorn is already an oak tree. Well, I don't think so. Try to get shade from an acorn. You will be very disappointed. But it's very delicious to talk this way, I think, because we so believe in our limit. It's like we all identify with being an acorn. We have no sense of our vast and marvelous potential. We see we're an acorn. We identify with being an acorn. We try to shine ourselves up every day. Maybe we change our hats a few times and become the best acorn. We define ourselves. This is a very profoundly limited view that we've got. In other words, we define ourselves. This is a materialist view, philosophically speaking. We define ourselves in our bones as a human, like our entity is human. Now, the Buddha would not disagree. We are a human. A dog is a dog. An ant is an ant. A hell being is a hell being. They are relative truths, but they are not our fundamental character. They are not what finally define our nature. That's the point. We've all got the potential to be a Buddha. So our potential for Buddhahood is what defines us. We all possess Buddha nature. What an acorn is, it can be used as a weapon. It can be breakfast. It can be jewelry, but what it is in its bones, what defines its very existence, is its potential to be an oak tree. That's the way to talk about the mind. That's the Buddha's view. That's what Buddha nature means. So then, of course, you've got the conventional Buddha nature, which is really referring to the actual process of going through the Lam Rim, purifying your body, purifying your speech, purifying your mind, getting bodhicitta, and then finally practicing the 6 perfections, and then finishing the job by realizing emptiness, the process itself, the gradual development of oneself into the Buddha. But then the ultimate Buddha nature, as they refer to it, the ultimate Buddha nature, that refers to the emptiness of our mind. The emptiness of our mind. That's the ultimate Buddha nature. That's how they talk about it. Because everything that does exist, its ultimate nature is the same. Its ultimate nature is its absence of intrinsic existence. We're not, so the way that grasping works for us now, the ego grasping, the marigpa, the ignorance that clings to things as having an intrinsic nature. This is our trouble. We define ourselves by being an acorn, because you see an acorn, you see the shape, and you think, oh, that's it. It's this oval shaped thing. You see yourself as a human. This is who I am. So then we always get tortured. Well, what am I? Then we think we're a girl. Then we think we're a boy. Then we think we're a carpenter. Then we think we're tall or fat or thin or ugly. Then we think we're a gymnast. Then we think we're a mathematician. We keep looking for these conventional realities, which are conventionally true, but we then over-exaggerate their status, and we end up defining ourselves in those terms. I am female. I am fat. I am ugly. I am intelligent. We concretize these conventional truths. They are true. It is an acorn, but it's not what it finally is. An acorn is merely a potential oak tree. So thinking this way is very encouraging, because we realize I am a girl, I am fat, I am thin, I am a hell being, whatever, but it doesn't finally define my fundamental nature, who I actually am. What defines me is my potential for Buddhahood. So where emptiness comes in is that's the ultimate nature of how things exist. And things exist we tend to think with our wrong view that things exist in spite of their being empty. On the contrary, for the Buddha, this is why it's our ultimate Buddha nature. We exist, things exist because they are empty. Things exist because they are empty. Emptiness, we think emptiness discounts reality. It does the opposite. It reinforces existence. We think emptiness denies existence. Emptiness affirms existence. Things exist because they are empty of intrinsic nature. So our mind, which right now is limited, why it can become a Buddha mind is because it doesn't have an intrinsic nature. We think everything has an intrinsic nature. We kind of think everything is set in stone. So we become paralyzed, That's why we get depressed. I'm hopeless. The world is no good. He is bad. She is good. This is this and this is that. Conventionally, it is true. Conventionally, it is an acorn, but we concretize it and think that's its absolute nature. No, nothing has that. So I know when I first met the teachings of Lama Zopa Rinpoche in the 70s, I was 31 or something. And I remember defining myself at that time. I'd been a political activist. At that moment in time, I was a very radical feminist. That was the closest to my identity that I could find. I mean, I'd been a radical lefty, kind of like, lefty politics for supporting all the poor. I wasn't poor. I wasn't working class. Then I supported the black movement. I'm not black. Then I became a feminist. Well, I am female. It was the closest I could see to who I am, to what I was. But then I realized, hearing the Buddhist teachings, that even didn't define me either. It's just a temporary shape. That what defined me, if anything, is my mind. And mind, having Buddha nature, is not male or female, or good or bad. Mind has this marvelous potential, and its ultimate potential is to turn it into the mind of a Buddha by ridding it of all the delusions and developing to perfection all the virtues. So Buddha mind, that's the actual meaning, like we discussed at the very beginning. Absolute Buddha, they refer to it. That's the actual Buddha, the actual enlightened mind. So now also, you can also say that once Carol is the Buddha, once Wolfgang is the Buddha, once Rabina is the Buddha, once Mark is the Buddha, then we are all the same Dharmakaya. I mean, just try and think conceptually, of unmanifest, all-knowing, all-compassionate consciousnesses. All of us accomplish the same perfection. You kind of can't bump into each other in the sky and count them. We are all the same Buddha mind then. It's not as if we're some big lump of cosmic consciousness that we join. It's not like that. But when you've accomplished wisdom and compassion, it's the same wisdom and compassion that I've accomplished. So we're the same Dharmakaya. So when we think of that in relation to the relative Buddha, the person in front of us, Shakyamuni Buddha, or indeed, if we talk about the so-called guru, a person heavy with qualities, our spiritual mentor, our Lama, who is the person in front of us today, who shows us the Buddhist teachings, because Buddha's dead. The person who brings Buddhism to us is the human being in front of us now, whom we practice seeing as the Buddha. That relative Buddha, there are thousands of them, countless, billions. I mean, any one Buddha mind, any one Bodhisattva, the lowest level of a Bodhisattva, and the path to Buddhahood is described in terms of 10 stages on the Bodhisattva path. From the time you've realized emptiness and you're now known as an Arya being, who are the Sangha in these 3 jewels, the Arya beings, the superior beings, those who realize emptiness all the way to Buddhahood. They're the second of the 3 jewels, the third, the Sangha. The absolute Sangha are those Arya beings. So if you're on the Bodhisattva path, there are 10 stages of your development, all laid out, all articulated, until eventually you've accomplished the 10th, the final, you've become a Buddha. So even the lowest level Bodhisattva has the power to manifest their mind in at least 100 different forms, different bodies, effortlessly, for the sake of sentient beings. So by the time you become a Buddha, every Buddha can manifest and is manifesting throughout all the universes, countless bodies, I think I want to finish today's session with, we all recite the King of Prayers. Can you find that for us, Lars, or and we'll put it up on the screen at the end, and we'll recite that as the end of this. It's a marvelous, amazing prayer of aspirations, describing this kind of cosmic idea of these countless Buddhas throughout countless universes. So it's very uplifting. It's just about 10 minutes. So we'll, at what time did we start? 1:30. So then in an hour or so, we can recite that. So get it ready for us. So then the lowest level Bodhisattva, an Arya being on the path to becoming a Buddha, already can manifest their mind in 100 different bodies. And this is the power. This is the power of the Mahayana path, the power driven by this unbelievable, unbearable compassion, as Rinpoche talks about, and this wisdom, driven by this wish to never give up to benefit sentient beings. So there's the wisdom of the Buddha's mind that knows that which exists. There's the infinite compassion of the Buddha's mind, such that Buddha mind is oneness with every living being as if they were oneself. There's literally no sense of separateness. And the power to manifest in these countless bodies throughout countless universes for countless eons, unceasingly, to be of benefit to sentient beings. That's a Buddha, that's kind of pretty cosmic, but that's the potential we all accomplish. That's the potential every mind possesses. That's the Mahayana view. So as we know very well, there are different levels of liberation or enlightenment. And so if you're on the Hinayana path, the first stages of the Lam Rim, which we share with that path, you know, the goal there is to be liberated from samsara, which is like the wisdom wing. You achieve the realization of emptiness, and then a few lifetimes you perfect that realization. You become an enemy destroyer, and at some point in one or other life, you finally achieve your own nirvana, your own liberation from suffering. And then when you die, you disappear into space, and you don't come back. But if you're on the Mahayana path, you're driven by this immense bodhicitta, this wish to never give up, going from life to life, perfecting the path in order to be a benefit to others. So the absolute Buddha is the unmanifest, all-knowing, all-pervasive, all-powerful consciousness, the Dharmakaya. The relative Buddha is all the trillions of forms the Buddha minds manifest in for the sake of others. And they call those the Nimanakaya. So there's the one that's called the Supreme Nimanakaya, which is the one like behind me, the founding Buddha. So at this time, he's called Shakyamuni. And then there are others before, and there will be Buddhas in the future, like Maitreya and others. They're the Supreme Nimanakaya. But but like Buddhas have the ability to manifest in any form they like. They're all the Nimanakaya. You might recognize them. Like there's always this wonderful story I tell about His Holiness the Dalai Lama. As you might know, all the Tibetans would say that he's the Buddha. And I mean, we can't tell, we're not clairvoyant, but, you know, I'm prepared to have confidence in Lama Zopa and the other holy beings. That's good enough for me. But I mean, you know, I learned to practice seeing him as the Buddha. That's one thing. But to say he is without doubt a Buddha, I can't tell that until I'm a Buddha. Nevertheless, so anyway, there's the Buddha who can manifest in countless bodies, and they're continually manifesting in countless bodies throughout the universe, non-stop, to benefit. You've got to realize that quality. So what we see when we see the Dalai Lama is this nice Tibetan man, isn't it? He's 80 something, lives in, you know, Dharamsala. He gives teachings. He's around the world less these days, but has been going around the world. People love him. Millions of people like him. And they say he is an enlightened mind. Now, if he isn't, but you can't tell. This is the whole point about the Buddha. Even Shakyamuni Buddha, just the same at the time. In India, at the time. Buddha, ultimate Buddha, relative absolute Buddha, doesn't need a body. They don't need bodies. They've gone beyond the regular laws of karma and don't need bodies. They're pure, unmanifest consciousness. But what good is that to sentient beings? Because of their immense compassion, that's what's driven them for countless lifetimes to become a Buddha. So they've got to manifest in bodies that poor peanuts like you and me can communicate with. It's obvious. How kind, you know, unbelievable. And that's where the body and the speech come in. So there's back at the time of the Buddha, look behind me, you know, if we were in India at the time, you would have seen these thousands of sadhus. The place was crawling in sadhus, these holy beings, mostly boys, of course, running around in their yellow robes, up in the mountains, meditating, getting realizations. And then Buddha's one of those. Shakyamuni, the great Shakya, the Gautama, this person, the son of a king, you know, and he was going through this system, and he went and then he diverged in his own direction, and he presented his own teachings, and he presented the teachings on suffering and how to get rid of suffering, blah, 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 blah. So then he would have looked just like all the other thousands of sadhus wandering around India. You couldn't tell the difference. You wouldn't have said, oh, wow, there's a Buddha. How could you possibly say that? Impossible. Buddhas don't need bodies. They've got to come. And this is really similar. I find this very similar in the Christian teachings, you know, the idea, because I was a Catholic, and I love the idea of God being unmanifest. God is everywhere. But I also, I mean, you know, I wasn't into Jesus so much, but Jesus is exactly the same concept. As they would say in the Catholic teachings, Christian teachings, it's Jesus is God as a man, as a human, isn't it? Because God, out of compassion, you could argue that, manifested as this person called Jesus at that time. But you know, who can tell who can tell? That's the whole point about all the people at the time. Some of them thought he was what's the word they use in Judaism? What's that word they use? You're looking for the something to come. What's they call it? Carol, what's the word?
Messiah.
The Messiah, the Messiah. Now, some people recognize him as the Messiah, didn't they? But some people didn't. Some of the Jews are still waiting for their Messiah to come. So you can't tell by looking. So some had faith that it was God manifesting as a human. The same with the Buddha. People had confidence. So how can you tell? That's exactly the same as why we have to check up on a teacher, because it's exactly the same at the time of the Buddha. The Buddha at the time was the guru. He was the teacher. We go, oh, there's the Buddha. What do you mean? You can't tell. The Shakyamuni in the human form was at the time the guru in human form, whom we then needed to check up on to make sure he was a valid teacher. And then we would see him as the Buddha. It's exactly the same now with our teachers. As Lama Geshe said, the Buddha is dead. So the Four Noble Truths will only be real for you when you hear it from the mouth of a person now in front of you. That's the Nirmanakaya. So that's our job, to see the guru as the Buddha. So anyway, the point about the story here is the Dalai Lama, His Holiness. So they all say he is the Buddha. Now, this story, I've told it many times. I'm sure you've heard me tell it. In the very early 60s, after the Tibetans had come out of Tibet in 59, and His Holiness and the other holy old lamas were desperate to find land in India so they could build their monasteries, so they could pass on the oral teachings. I mean, knowledge is not in books. This is the power of speech, and this is the power of the relative Buddha. You need a person who is a knowledge holder. It's a lovely word in Tibetan, rigsin, knowledge holder. That's what the guru, the Lama, the spiritual mentor is for you, a knowledge holder. So that person, so you need to check up on that person, because you can't tell by looking at them. So the knowledge is in the mind. Knowledge is not in a book. That's just the words. Knowledge is in a mind. So you need real knowledge holders to pass on orally, actually through words, from one mind to the next. That's where things become myth. When that lineage has ceased, when the oral tradition in any body of knowledge at all, when it ceases, it's myth. Now it's myth. Think of music. I always think of my mother, who was my music guru and my cake making guru. I always use that example. So where did she get her knowledge about music from? Bach is dead, not Bach. She got it from her knowledge holder, her musical mentor, her musical guru, a knowledge holder of music. Where did they get their music from? And you can see, you track back in an unbroken chain of real human beings right back to Bach. That's how we pass on knowledge. It's not just spiritual concept. Cake making. If my mother, if there's some point, where did my mother get it from? Her mother. Where'd she get it from? Her mum. Where'd she get it from? Her mum. If there was some break in that knowledge, cakes would only exist in books. This is a really powerful point. We talk about it all the time in Buddhism, though we tend to assume it's only in spiritual teachings. No, it's all knowledge. Knowledge is only real when it's in a mind. This is very powerful. So there's His Holiness, okay? He's said to be a Buddha. Now, put it this way, if his mind is an enlightened mind, then he is at this moment in time manifesting in millions of bodies throughout all the universes, throughout all the realms of existence, countless bodies all the time, according to the needs of sentient beings. As cosmic and insane as that sounds, that is the teachings. That's how even the lowest, like I said, the lowest level Bodhisattva can already manifest in 100 different bodies simultaneously, solely for the benefit of others. I mean, this is a really outrageous concept. Outrageous, shocking. It's insane, isn't it? It's remarkable. It's extraordinary. Don't just swallow it whole. It's all described in all the literature, all laid out. The stages of development, how you accomplish this, what power at what point, blah, 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 blah. It's all there in the teachings. It's a real doable thing. The system is there. The methods are there. They're not lost yet. So there is His Holiness. And then all these Tibetans will say he is a Buddha mind. So there's this one story about how they were desperate to get land so they could build their monasteries, so the older knowledge holders could teach the younger ones and keep the lineages alive, keep the knowledge real. That's what a superior being is. The Sangha the Sangha, the spiritual community. The relative spiritual community is, as I was discussing, is the monks and nuns, but the absolute spiritual community is those superior beings, those amazing knowledge holders, you know. They are needed. In fact, even in the relative Sangha for the Buddha, it's the presence in any one place of 4 fully ordained people, male or female, who are holding, and there's only discussion of male or female in Buddhism, there's no non-binary and all that stuff. Anybody who's holding the fullness of the vows of Buddha's Vinaya, living in one place, that is the presence of those fully ordained people in that one place is the criterion of the existence of the living Dharma in one place. So the absolute Sangha are the knowledge holders, the superior beings, but you can't tell who they are. But without them, and this is the point that Carol's making, you know, all the meditators will tell you, the really serious meditators, that the greatest, you know, this is in the teachings too, that the main condition of a place to be qualified as a place to meditate is a place that's been blessed by the presence of actual living knowledge holders. I remember, I always quote this, but our friend Venerable Rene, a Swiss monk who's a serious meditator the last 45, 50 years, he was meditating at our center. This wonderful, you know, I've always mentioned this, tell you the story. He was doing retreat at Urseling, the place of clear light, this wonderful place in the Sierra Nevada, a couple of hours out of Granada, where His Holiness blessed in 82 and named the place of clear light. It's near where Lama Ursel was born, and he was called after that. So that place, His Holiness said, it reminded him of Tibet. It was very pure, and it's a wonderful place to meditate. So Venerable Rene was meditating there for a couple of years, and he was doing the single point of concentration meditation technique. And he said after a couple of years, he knew he couldn't get further than the 5th of the 9 stages of the development of single pointed concentration. Now, the point is this: I interviewed him about his retreat. This is back in 1995. I interviewed him at Kopan Monastery, which is up on a hill in the Kathmandu Valley, and all the Tibetans adore Kathmandu. They say it's so pure, such blessed place, which is a shock for us modern people. When you get there, all you see is this polluted, smelly place, you know. But they say that it's full of the presence of the holy beings, all the Buddhas. They love Kathmandu Valley. But as you get up the mountains more and more, it's more and more pristine, more and more pure, more and more powerful. So I remember Venerable Rene said, when he was in Kopan, where I interviewed him, which is very busy, in the mornings, all the dogs are barking and all the Hindus around playing all their loud prayers to Shiva and everybody. It's a noisy place. But he said his mind got more subtle, more easily at Kopan. And the reason is because it's a place blessed by the presence of holy beings. So that's what, you know, Carol's talking about. You can tune into that energy, you know. I mean, I'm a bit gross, I can't, but Carol obviously can. But my friends who meditate up in the mountains in Nepal, they all say that. It's so pristine because the holy beings are there. It's blessed by the presence of the pure energy, pure beings actually existing. So His Holiness, there he is. He's said to be a Buddha. So they were desperate, all the Tibetans desperate to get land to build the monasteries. So in the early 60s, at some point, the Tibetan government, which was based up, the exile government based in Dharamsala, you know, was negotiating with the Indian government to get land in the south, all these thousands and thousands of acres of forest land that is now like where all the monasteries are. It's like little Tibet down there, a few hours out of Bangalore. They were negotiating to get this land, and Indian bureaucracy being the way it was quite difficult. And so the Tibetan minister who was negotiating for His Holiness with the Indian minister, you know, the Indian government based in Delhi, which is about, so he was down there trying to get a meeting with the Indian minister, couldn't get a meeting, got very frustrated, took the train back up. You take a 12-hour train journey. Now you can fly, but back in those days you couldn't fly. You go up in the train 12 hours to a place called Patankot, and then you take taxis and buses, or taxis up the mountain, up to Dharamsala. It was where all the English, when they were in India, they would go up into the hills, into the I forget what they call them now. I can't remember the name. The hill, they call them the hill stations. or up in the hills where it was cool in the summer, because Delhi in summer is like 50 degrees every day. You've never known anything like the heat. Unbelievable. Anyway, he went up there frustrated, saw His Holiness, said he couldn't get a meeting, and His Holiness said, don't you worry, it'll be okay. Go back down again. So he took the train down, got to the office of the minister, and that particular day, the Indian minister's little boy was in the office with his daddy, and he was talking to the Tibetan, and the little boy expressed the wish for a dog. Well, the Tibetan was delighted, to grease the wheels. I'll get you a dog. So he went out, and there was a sadhu who had a little dog. So, can I buy your little dog? And so he bought the dog, and then he gave it to the little boy, and his little boy was so happy, and he went to his daddy, and daddy's happy. So everything everything works, everything works. So as Lama Zopa said, who told this story, the dog and the sadhu were manifestations of the Dalai Lama's mind. Remember, the lowest level Bodhisattva has the ability to manifest to 100 different bodies. And as you increase up the 10 developments, the 10 bhumis, the 10 grounds of development, you can now manifest in countless bodies. So if you can try and imagine what a Buddha is, it's inconceivable. It seems insane, manifesting continuously in order to facilitate things. There's this lovely saying in Tibetan, and the more you hear these Bodhisattva teachings, the more you realize it has to be true. You don't know who anybody is, so do not judge. I mean, if you think this way, that there are Buddhas manifesting around the universe, and they don't just manifest as nice looking saints with halos, they'll manifest in whatever form is useful for the benefit of sentient beings. There's a whole different discussion, So that dog and that sadhu were manifestations of the Dalai Lama's mind. What does that mean? Well, that means that it's not a dog. The Buddha's mind, that Buddha's mind, was pretending to be a dog, manifesting his physical energy in the shape of a dog. You wouldn't have seen, oh, there's a special lovely dog, it must be the Dalai Lama. No, it could have been a mean, ugly dog. Anything's possible, but it was not a dog in its nature. That sadhu would have looked like a sadhu, but was not. And even the same, His Holiness, and this is where it sounds shocking to us, what we see is a very nice human being, isn't it? Tibetan man, 80-something, funny, charismatic, compassionate. But then technically, literally, if his mind is the Buddha, then he can't possibly be in his nature a human being. He is manifesting for our benefit in the shape of a human being, because we can't cognize the mind of a Buddha. This is the way to think, okay? Like I said, from the point of view of neuroscience and psychology, this is like insane, completely like science fiction. But it's all in the teachings. It's up to us to look into it. It's all in the text. It's all there in the body of knowledge, for us to look into, study it, analyze it, and then indeed, if we want to, practice doing it ourselves. So you've got the absolute Buddha, the actual Dharmakaya, they call it, the actual enlightened mind itself. Then because what's driven a person to become a Buddha is their incredible compassion. So then out of that compassion, they're going to consciously manifest in bodies to be of benefit to sentient beings. That's the relative Buddha. Then you've got the absolute Dharma, which is the actual knowledge in the mind, the experiential knowledge in the mind of a Buddha. That's the actual Dharma. But that's not useful. We can't communicate with that. So out of compassion, that relative Buddha opens their mouth and speaks words, because words are expressions of concepts, thoughts. And that's the level we function at. So that's the level Buddha manifests in to benefit us sentient beings. A person who's got that knowledge in their mind, which is non-conceptual, expresses it as concepts so we can hear it, so we can internalize it, so we can become our own Buddha. That's the power of speech. You can look at a Buddha for 1,000 years and get very happy, because they're so cute. But if they don't open their mouth and give you words, tell you in concepts the knowledge that is in their mind, then you can't do a thing. That's why the power of speech is so tremendous. Then you've got the spiritual community. The Arya, the actual spiritual community are those very knowledge holders, those Arya beings, those who've realized emptiness all the way from that up to Buddhahood. They're the actual spiritual community. They're the actual knowledge holders. And then, but we can't communicate with them. We can't recognize the smelly old homeless person around the corner might be one of those, but you can't communicate. So then we have the relative Sangha, which for the Buddha is those who are living in the fullness of the Vinaya, of all his teachings of the Vinaya, all the rules of discipline, the fully ordained monks or nuns, the presence of them on the planet, on the earth, is the relative criterion of the existence of the living Dharma. Okay. Any questions? Yes.
Hello.
Zalo.
Hello, Venerable Rubina. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
Great. I just had a question about the example you just explained about the Dalai Lama manifesting in the dog and the sadhu, for example. Like, is that dog and that sadhu like born in a regular way and die in a regular way?
It's a good point. They could be, but they don't need to be. They could be, but they don't need to be. A Buddha, you see, this is where it all sounds pretty cosmic. But if we can understand, I find it very helpful to understand the Vajrayana teachings. The Vajrayana explanation of the universe is we've got consciousness, and then we've got matter. And the matter is made of the four elements. And all minds are inextricably linked to their own set of the four elements. It's just the way it is. It's described in great detail in the Vajrayana teachings. And so when you're a fully developed being, your mind is conjoined with your own set of the four elements. So you can manipulate the external elements and conjoin your mind with the four elements of a tree. You can manifest a human body. You can manifest a dog. You have this power based on wisdom and immense compassion and power to be able to do that. So yes, it doesn't have to be born from a womb, not at all. They're like the most insane magicians you could ever imagine. Are you with me, Zalo? Did you hear the answer?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, good. Okay, Samuel, talk to me.
Hello, I have a question.
Hello there.
If Buddha knows the future, if Buddha knows the future, how doesn't that mean that the future is sort of set in
You're disappearing.
stone?
I'm so sorry. The sound is not so good. Forgive me.
I will type that.
Okay.
Have I gone? Have I disappeared?
You did. He's going to type his question. You're just frozen, but I could hear you. Now we can't. There we go. She should pop off and back on now. 1 minute.
Hello, I'm here now on my iPad again. Sometimes it gets weird. So, okay, I'll continue your question, Samuel. I'll tell you your question. Okay, good. Thank you very much for the question. I hear the question. I understand it. I will answer for you now. Okay, it's a bit like this. Okay, Well, I want to see you a bit and see the Buddha. There we go. So now let's just say, remember the Buddha's telling us that there's the law of karma is a natural law that runs the universe. It can be known to the most subtle degree. So let's just pretend you are a brilliant gardener and you know all the laws of botany, incredibly sophisticated knowledge. We know that's possible. So let's say I've never heard of the law of botany, never heard of such a thing. And then you have, let's say, an acre of ground, and as far as I can see, it's just barren. But you have planted lots of seeds in there. In other words, you're a good gardener. So you know logically that you can now present to me exactly how that garden will look in 10 years, in 20 years. You know that logically because every seed you planted it on the basis of your knowledge of the fruits it will bring in the future. This is called the law of botany. If you know the laws of engineering and mathematics and architecture, you can present to me a vivid description of a 100-story building, exactly how it will look in 5 years, because you know the laws of the world. This is what we call science, Samuel. Well, that's the law of karma. And a Buddha's knowledge is incredibly sophisticated. It can see any sentient being, all the infinite variations of their past karma, and all the infinite likely variations of their future. So that's why they can guide them perfectly. So you know you can give me the vision of what the garden will look like in 10 years, but you also know other laws can intervene, like storms or you know what, but you know you have such knowledge that you're able to see all those variations, and you can predict and but it's never set in stone. Because you can see the future of that garden doesn't mean you can't pull some flowers out, doesn't mean you can't alter it. It's highly sophisticated, but it's a natural law and it's dependent arising and therefore can be known. What do you think? That's why a Buddha can guide us so skillfully. What do you think? You know the laws of botany and you can predict, knowing all the weather patterns, knowing what goes on in the next few years. You can have a lot of knowledge. You can predict what the garden will look like, but you know each day because you know these laws, you can keep adjusting things and you can learn to adjust things very skillfully. Of course, it's not set in stone. If it was set in stone, it couldn't exist. You couldn't do anything. It's very subtle, but I think we understand it. You get my point?
Okay.
I mean, the knowledge we've got of botany is actually incredibly gross in comparison with what the Buddha is suggesting, the wisdom that we can accomplish, the subtlety of our wisdom, the depth of our ability to see the past and see the future, and all the subtle permutations of every tiny action. I mean, it's not in our normal way of imagining such knowledge, but the principle is like that.
Okay, I'll think of it. Good,
yes, thank you. It's a good point. It's an important point. So who else is there? What other questions are there, dearest people? Before we recite the heart suit, before we recite the King of Prayers. How's our time? Okay, we've got time. Any more questions there? Tara or Lars? Yes, Nina. Talk to me, sweetheart. I can't hear you, darling. Can't hear you, Nina. I don't know what's my problem or yours. You're silent.
We can't hear you either.
No, can't hear you, Nina. What to do? Press a button or something.
She'll be typing. And then perhaps, Venerable, could you please tell me, that means a person who is not really seemingly doing something beneficial for the world could potentially also be a Buddha, we just don't understand, or...
Okay, so this needs us to talk a little bit more. Okay, let's talk about this. This is a bit shocking to us. We don't like this. When we think of a Buddha or a Bodhisattva, we think of a person who will look like they're nice, you know, say nice words and all of that. Oh, wait a minute, just a minute. Okay, so now there's different levels of teachings, different levels of capacity. So the very first level, given that we're driven by delusions, we need to control our body and speech. Then we control our mind and we eventually get renunciation. So then we go to the Bodhisattva path. And now you can say your wisdom is pretty incredible, but your compassion is so enormous that you need to find various methods to help sentient beings. In other words, just being nice to somebody might not work because you've got this fierce compassion. You want to do whatever is beneficial. So given the example of a good parent, we know perfectly well you can have a really wild, uncontrolled child and you genuinely love them. You have real compassion, but just saying nice words doesn't help. So we all know you use tough love. You discipline them. You're strict with them. You prevent them from going out. You say no, you stay in your room, you know, and they freak out and think daddy hates them. But we know if you're a good parent, you're coming from real love and real compassion, but also real wisdom, because you can see their mind and you know how to help them. That's the attitude of a bodhisattva, but a billion times more powerful. So they talk about how bodhisattvas can manifest, you know, this is the way, and they're talking about dhyana, the way to benefit others. The best way is to use sweet methods. But what about the tough-minded sentient beings for whom sweet methods don't work? Then they use wrathful methods. They will appear angry. They will appear to even harm you. So the only way to comprehend that is to understand the possibility that you can get rid of delusions, which is what motivates negative actions, but you can still do a negative action that looks like negative, but it's coming from pure wisdom and pure compassion. We have to understand that possibility. Without that, it doesn't make any sense, you know? And there's all these stories, I mean, outrageous stories about how bodhisattvas benefit others. So I always tell this story as well. My mother, when she first met Lama Yeshe, she kind of didn't like him. She kept criticizing him because he made her nervous, you know. So I was thinking about this, and then my mother's criticizing a Buddha, you know, blah, 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 like that. And then I heard this wonderful story about this one bodhisattva, because the thing you got to understand about bodhisattvas, they're these fiercely compassionate beings, fiercely dedicated, and they're very devoted and dedicated and have long term. They think in terms of eons, His Holiness says. So they're basically going from life to life to life, perfecting their own mind. But also one of the key things is they're hooking. They talk about how they hook sentient beings. They make connection with sentient beings. You need a karmic connection with somebody from the past in order to even meet them again in the present. So we look at His Holiness. We can see that millions of people love His Holiness. Well, we could argue that he must have, from life after life after life, he has hooked all of us such that when we see him now, we hear his name, we like him. So he's kind of hooked us. He hooked us. He got us, you know. So now he can be of use to us. He can lead us to enlightenment. So this bodhisattva, there's one story. I heard this story about this bodhisattva in one village. So on the one hand, you can't see he's a bodhisattva. He looks like a nice guy, and he's in this village, and he's nice to everybody. In other words, he's hooked. He's made a karmic connection with all the people, which is what he wants, because they're not ready to lead to enlightenment yet. He can't give them the teachings because they're not ready, but he wants to hook them, make a karmic connection, so that in 37 lifetimes or whatever it is that they're ready to be led to enlightenment, they will then meet him and he will be able to benefit them. So it's a long-term goal they have. So he sees this one old lady, doesn't notice him. He can't leave her behind. He has to make a karmic connection so he can meet her again in future lives when she's ready to be led to enlightenment. So he doesn't know what to do to hook her, to get her to literally notice him. So he sees she's got this beautiful garden, and he rides his horse through her garden, destroying her garden. Now, on the face of it, what you see is some mean, ugly guy wrecking this lady's garden. So you'd think, what a horrible guy. And all the other people probably throw stones at him and chuck him out the village. But he's happy because she now sees him. She gets mad at him. She shakes her fist, shouts and yells, but he's happy because he got her. He hooked her. He made a karmic connection with her. So that's what happened, I think, with my mum. My mother met Lama Yeshe, and she would not forget him because she seemed to be upset with him. Or he kept looking at the television while I talked to him, she said. So he got her. My feeling is he hooked my mother. He hooked my mum. So does that story make sense, Lars? So you can't tell who a bodhisattva is. This is the point. This is a really shocking teaching. As soon as we see a person who's mean, we see it as absolutely mean. They must be mean. That's the end of it. You know, we're very narrow in our view. It's a very scary view to think of this, you know, but we don't know who anybody is, so we can't judge. It's quite powerful. So bodhisattvas will do whatever it takes to hook sentient beings in order to benefit them. Okay.
Thank you, Venerable.
All right.
Fine answer.
Good.
And Nina's question. Nina, can you talk now?
Good, Nina.
I can try. Can you hear me?
Good, darling. Now I can hear you. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Great. So when a Buddha can manifest in endless bodies, and when they know everything, I wonder why there is still suffering in the world. Can't they manifest constantly to help us to?
They are.
Samsara? Okay, and we just don't notice then, or why doesn't it work?
Dalai Lama is the Buddha. There are millions of people, communists, the Chinese communists, who hate him. But another person will see him and will be deeply moved and will get realization of emptiness just by hearing his teachings. So what's the difference? The Dalai Lama is the Dalai Lama is the Dalai Lama. The difference is the minds of the people and how they view the Dalai Lama. The Dalai Lama, you know, can influence us only so far as we are able to be influenced. It's a dependent arising. It's just the same. Let's say you're a perfect doctor. You've got every bit of knowledge to help everybody. But, you know, let's say someone doesn't like women with brown hair, so they'll hate you. You're the best doctor on the planet, but they've got to see you and want you to heal them and request you. It's a dependent arising. You have to get the knowledge to help, but then it's up to sentient beings to do our part of it in order to get the benefit from the Buddha. It's a dependent arising. Otherwise, everybody would have been enlightened eons and eons and eons ago. No problem.
But there is no way for the Buddha to manifest in a way that we believe him or that we rely on.
That's what they're doing. They're manifesting in all kinds of ways. But if your mind isn't, let's just say you're a brilliant doctor and you see, and you know all about nutrition, and you see me and I'm obese and I'm really sick. You're right in front of me with all the knowledge, but I literally cannot hear you because my mind is not ready. So maybe you'll work with some way with me and you'll be very sweet and kind. And then 27 years later, finally, I can see you. So you'll do everything you can to hook me, to connect with me, to be sweet to me. And then one day I'm ready, then I can hear you. That's what the Buddhists are doing with their infinite wisdom, life after life, manifesting in all kinds of ways. That old lady with her garden, she wasn't ready to hear the teaching. So he made her angry so that he hooked her, and 27 lives later, when she was ready, he was then able to lead her to enlightenment. It's a bit like that.
Okay.
Yeah. A bit like that. Thank you.
Thank you, Venerable. We have one final question before the prayers. Linda, do you want to speak out? Oh.
Okay,
sure.
Talk to me.
I was just wondering.
Who is this? Yes, pardon? Go on, Linda, talk to me.
Okay, what the relationship is between bodhicitta and bodhisattvas and then Buddhahood.
Okay, very good, yeah. So bodhicitta literally means awakening mind or thought or attitude, and that is the quality in the mind of an awakening person, bodhisattva. So a bodhisattva has bodhicitta, and bodhicitta is the culmination of incredible compassion, and it's got two parts. It's this powerful thought every second to only benefit whoever's in front of you, and second, the long-term goal of going from life to life, working on your mind, becoming a Buddha, never giving up until you've perfected Buddhahood. That's bodhicitta. So with a person with bodhicitta, there's no longer the thought of I. They've made this paradigm shift in their mind when only others is in their mind. They only think of others and only want to help others and continue to grow their power and ability to be able to help others life after life after life. And then finally you become, you accomplish these 10 stages of bodhicitta, of the bodhisattva path, once you realize emptiness, and then you finally become a Buddha. Yeah.
Right. Thank you.
Good. Okay. And yes, Amjad, talk to me.
Hi, Venerable. Thank you for tonight.
Okay.
So given that we can't interpret any action that we receive on face value, and we don't really know who anyone is in a way, how can we cultivate compassion for the people who hurt us? I can understand renouncing my suffering and renouncing the anger and renouncing.
That's right. That's right.
but how can I go a step further? And
exactly. That completely is to do with understanding the 3 levels of suffering, Amjad. This is the point here. I mean, we're going to go into more detail about this in the Bodhisattva path, but at the very first level of practice, when we study the 4 noble truths, the first noble truth is that there is suffering. And we have to learn to understand. So the very first level of suffering is when the bad things happen, when you get harmed and all that one. That one we understand. The subtle level of suffering is this, they call it, is related to the delusions. And that's a much more subtle level of suffering. So then when you realize that one, you can even see that when nice things happen, because you're driven by attachment, that's a subtle level of suffering. And eventually there's the subtlest level of suffering of all, which is caused by believing in the intrinsic me. So the 3 levels of suffering, we have to recognize all of those in ourselves. When we recognize them in ourselves, then you open your eyes and look around the world and you see everybody has got the 3 levels of suffering. So at the moment, the only ones we have compassion for are like, let's say, if you're on the side of the Ukrainians, you have compassion for the Ukrainians, but then you hate the Russians. If you're on the side of the Russians, you hate the Ukrainians and you love the Russians. That's the only level of compassion we tend to have. Now, if you've got the bigger picture of understanding everybody is the result of karma, everybody is being harmed because they harmed before, everybody is harming now because they have been harmed before and they're driven by the wish to harm again, then you'll have compassion for both sides. You'll have equal compassion. Even the bodhisattvas will have more compassion for the harmer than the harmed, which sounds shocking because the harmed person is just finishing their karma, but the person who's doing the harming is just beginning countless lives of future suffering. It's a bit like a mother for her crazy kid, you know? Everybody else hates that kid because he lies and steals, but she can see he is harming himself. And that's the real basis of compassion for every sentient being, that we all harm ourselves. That's the basis of real compassion for everybody. We're all in the same boat. Do you understand?
Yeah, I do.
It's a tough one. It's a tough one, but the basis of this is understanding karma, you know, that whenever we do a negative action, we are harming another, but we are harming ourselves unbearably and causing unbearable future suffering. Without that understanding, there's no way to have compassion for the harmers. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Good. So
Thank
I
you
think
very-
we can finish this little module and by doing this King of Prayers, which is an amazing aspiration, okay? So there's so much always more to talk about. I know that there's always more to talk about, but we will continue to talk. So let's put it up high on the screen. I've only got it tiny on the screen. I can't see it. I don't know what to do. The television screen is just only half on my page. I don't know how to make it bigger. No, I mean, I don't know why my screen has only got half the picture. Why would that be? Anybody can tell me what I can do? But it's the full screen for you, isn't it? Because suppose it's television size,
Yes,
computer.
it's a full screen for us.
It's a horizontal. I know it's horizontal, but mine is vertical. Maybe I'll go horizontal, but then I'll go sideways, I think. Let me have a look. I can just a minute. See if it goes sideways. Yeah, that was not much better, but it'll do. Okay, go on then. Let's go slowly. But I can only see about one verse at a time. Still not the whole screen. What can I do? Okay, we'll do our best. So just contemplate the meaning. Either you say the words with me, or you just sit there and try and absorb the meaning. Okay, these are very amazing, powerful aspirations of the Bodhisattva. It'll take us about 10 minutes. So just sit there and contemplate or recite the words as you feel. Okay. I bow down to the youthful Arya Manjushri. You lions among humans, gone to freedom in the present, past, and future, in the worlds of 10 directions, to all of you, with body, speech, and sincere mind, I bow down. With the energy of aspiration for the Bodhisattva way, with a sense of deep respect, with as many bodies as atoms of the world, to all you Buddhas visualized as real, I bow down. On every atom are Buddhas, numberless as atoms, each amidst a host of bodhisattvas, and I am confident the sphere of all phenomena is entirely filled with Buddhas in this way. With infinite oceans of praise for you and oceans of sound from the aspects of my voice, I sing the breathtaking excellence of Buddhas and celebrate all of you gone to bliss. Beautiful flowers and regal garlands, sweet music, scented oils and parasols, sparkling lights and sublime incense, I offer to you, victorious ones. Fine dress and fragrant perfumes, sandalwood powder heaped high as Mount Meru, all wondrous offerings in spectacular array, I offer to you, victorious ones. With transcendent offerings, peerless and vast, with profound admiration for all the Buddhas, with strength of conviction in the Bodhisattva way, I offer and bow down to all victorious ones. Every harmful action I have done with my body, speech, and mind, overwhelmed by attachment, anger, and delusion and ignorance, all these I openly lay bare before you. I lift up my heart and rejoice in all merit of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in 10 directions, of solitary realizers, hearers, still training, and those beyond, and of all ordinary beings. You who are the bright lights of worlds in 10 directions, who have attained a Buddha's omniscience through the stages of awakening, all of you who are my guides, please turn the supreme wheel of Dharma. With palms together, I earnestly request, you who may actualize parinirvana, please stay with us for eons numberless as atoms of the world, for the happiness and well-being of all wanderers in samsara. Whatever slight merit I may have created, by paying homage, offering, and acknowledging my faults, rejoicing and requesting that the Buddhas stay and teach, I now dedicate all this for full awakening, for Buddhahood. May you Buddhas now living in the world of 10 directions, and all you gone to freedom in the past, accept my offerings. May those not yet arisen quickly perfect their minds, awakening as fully enlightened ones. May all worlds in 10 directions be entirely pure and vast. May they be filled with bodhisattvas, surrounding Buddhas gathered beneath a Bodhi tree. May as many beings as exist in 10 directions be always well and happy. May all samsaric beings live in accord with the Dharma, and may their every Dharma wish be fulfilled. Remembering my past lives in all varieties of existence, may I practice the Bodhisattva way, and thus in each cycle of death, migration, and birth, may I always abandon the householder's life. Then, following in the footsteps of all the Buddhas and perfecting the practice of a Bodhisattva, may I always act without error or compromise, with ethical discipline, faultless and pure. May I teach the Dharma in the language of gods, in every language of spirits and nagas, of humans and of demons, and in the voice of every form of being. May I be gentle-minded, cultivating the 6 perfections, and never forget bodhicitta. May I completely cleanse, without omission, every negativity and all that obscures this awakening mind, this bodhicitta. May I traverse all my lives in the world, free of karma, afflictions, and interfering forces, just as the lotus blossom is undisturbed by the water's wave, just as the sun and moon move unhindered through the sky. May I ease the suffering in the lower realms and in the many directions and dimensions of the universe. May I guide all wanderers in samsara to the pure bliss of awakening and be of worldly benefit to them as well. May I practice constantly for eons to come, perfecting the activities of awakening, acting in harmony with the various dispositions of beings, showing the ways of a bodhisattva. May I always have the friendship of those whose path is like mine, and with body, words, and also mind, may we practice together the same aspirations and activities. May I always meet a spiritual mentor and never displease that excellent friend who deeply wishes to help me and expertly teaches the Bodhisattva way. May I always directly see the Buddhas, all the holy beings encircled by bodhisattvas, and without pause or discouragement for eons to come, may I make extensive offerings to them. May I hold within me the Buddha's genuine Dharma, illuminate everywhere the teachings that awaken, embody the realizations of a bodhisattva, and practice ardently in all future eons. While circling through all states of existence, may I become an endless treasure of good qualities, skillful means, wisdom, samadhi, and liberating stabilizations, gathering limitless pristine wisdom and merit. On one atom, I shall see Buddha fields, numberless as atoms, inconceivable Buddhas among bodhisattvas in every field, practicing the activities of awakening. Perceiving this in all directions, I dive into an ocean of Buddha fields, each an ocean of 3 times Buddhas in the space of a wisp of hair. So I too will practice for an ocean of eons. Thus, I am continually immersed in the speech of the Buddhas, expression that reveals an ocean of qualities in one word, the completely pure eloquence of all the Buddhas, communication suited to the varied tendencies of beings. With strength of understanding, I plunge into the infinite enlightened speech of the Dharma, of all Buddhas in 3 times gone to freedom, who continually turn the wheel of Dharma methods. I shall experience in one moment such vast activity of all future eons, and I will enter into all eons of the 3 times in but a fraction of a second. In one instant, I shall see all those awakened beings, past, present, and future lions among humans, and with the power of the illusion-like stabilization, I will constantly engage in their inconceivable activity. I shall manifest upon one single atom the array of pure lands, present, past, and future. Likewise, I shall enter the array of pure Buddha fields in every direction without exception. I shall enter the very presence of all my guides, those lights of this world who are yet to appear, those sequentially turning the wheels of complete awakening, those who reveal nirvana, final, perfect peace. May I achieve the power of swift, magical emanation, the power to lead to the great vehicle through every approach, the power of always beneficial activity, the power of love pervading all realms, the power of all surpassing merit, the power of supreme knowledge unobstructed by discrimination, and through the powers of wisdom, skillful means, and samadhi, may I achieve the perfect power of awakening, Buddhahood. Purifying the power of all contaminated actions, crushing the power of disturbing emotions at their root, diffusing the power of interfering forces, I shall perfect the power of the Bodhisattva practice. May I purify an ocean of worlds. May I free an ocean of beings. May I clearly see an ocean of Dharma. May I realize an ocean of pristine wisdom. May I purify an ocean of activities. May I fulfill an ocean of aspirations. May I make offerings to an ocean of Buddhas. May I practice without discouragement for an ocean of eons. To fully awaken fully through this Bodhisattva way, I shall fulfill without exception all the diverse aspirations of the awakening practice of all Buddhas gone to freedom in the 3 times everywhere. In order to practice exactly as the wise one called Samantabhadra, all embracing good, the elder brother of the sons and daughters of the Buddhas, I completely dedicate all this goodness. Likewise, may I dedicate, just as the skillful Samantabhadra, with pure body, speech, and mind, pure actions and pure Buddha fields. I shall give rise to the aspirations of Manjushri for this Bodhisattva practice of all embracing good to perfect these practices without discouragement or pause in all future eons. May my pure activities be endless. May my good qualities boundless. And through abiding in immeasurable activity, may I actualize infinite emanations. Limitless is the end of space. Likewise, limitless are living beings. Thus, limitless are karma and delusions. May my aspirations reach be limitless as well. One may offer to the Buddhas all wealth and adornments of infinite worlds in 10 directions, and one may offer during eons, numberless as atoms of the world, even the greatest happiness of gods and humans. But whoever hears this extraordinary aspiration and longing for highest awakening gives rise to faith just once, creates far more precious merit. Those who make this heartfelt aspiration for the Bodhisattva way will be free of all lower rebirths, free of harmful companions, and will quickly see Amitabha, infinite light. And even in this very human life, they will be nourished by happiness and have all conducive circumstances. Without waiting long, they will become like Samantabhadra himself. Those who give voice to this extraordinary aspiration will quickly and completely purify the 5 boundless harmful actions created under the power of ignorance. Blessed with supreme knowledge, excellent body, family, attributes, and appearance, they will be invincible to vast interfering forces and misleading teachers, and all the 3 worlds will make offerings. Going quickly to the noble Bodhi tree and sitting there to benefit sentient beings, subduing all interfering forces, they will fully awaken and turn the great wheel of Dharma. Is there more? Yes, please. Having no doubt that complete awakening is the fully ripened result, comprehended only by a Buddha, of holding in mind by teaching, reading, or reciting this aspiration of the Bodhisattva practice. In order to train just like the hero Manjushri, who knows really as it is, and just like Samantabhadra as well, I completely dedicate all this goodness just as they did. With that dedication that is praised as greatest by all the Buddhas gone to freedom in the 3 times, I too dedicate all my roots of goodness for the attainments of the Bodhisattva practice. When the moment of my death arrives, by eliminating all obscurations and directly perceiving Amitabha, may I go immediately to Sukhavati, pure land of great joy. Having gone to Sukhavati, may I actualize the meaning of these aspirations, fulfilling them all without exception for the benefit of beings for as long as this world endures. Born from an extremely beautiful superlative lotus in this joyful land, the Buddha's magnificent mandala, may I receive a prediction of my awakening directly from the Buddha Amitabha. Having received a prediction there, may I create vast benefit for beings throughout the 10 directions with 1 billion emanations by the power of wisdom. Through even the small virtue I have accumulated by offering this prayer of the Bodhisattva practice, may all the merits of beings be fulfilled in an instant. Through creating in limitless merit by dedicating this prayer of Samantabhadra's deeds, may all beings drowning in this torrent of suffering enter the presence of Amitabha. Through this king of aspirations, which is the greatest of the sublime, helping infinite wanderers in samsara, through the accomplishment of this scripture, dazzling with Samantabhadra's practice, may suffering realms be utterly emptied of all beings. Thank you very much, Lars. So with these amazing thoughts, amazing aspirations, may we never give up, never give up, never give up, never give up, thinking in terms of eons. Because the point is, what is our option? What's the option? With enthusiasm, you want to continue. If you get depressed, you want to run away. We have to have enthusiasm, you know? And that's the key function of a bodhisattva, the key quality, the enthusiasm, joyful effort. So be one step at a time, people, and never give up. And read that prayer every now and again. It's very uplifting, very powerful, very marvelous. All right, darling people. So I'll see you in we have a week's break. Have a little sleep, a relax. 2 whole weeks before we see each other again, which is wonderful. Nothing wrong. Make the most of it. And we continue next time. So that dedication, everything is in that prayer. Nothing more to say. Thank you, darlings. Thank you, everybody, so much. Much love.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.